In an exciting World Cup game, Australia narrowly beat New Zealand by 5 runs. Australia batted in the first and set a tough target of 389 runs thanks to Travis Head's century. The David Warner 81. New Zealand also played well when while chasing the target. Rachin Ravindra scored a century and Jimmy Neesham contributed 58 runs. New Zealand had a chance to win in the last over, but Australia's excellent fielding secured the victory. Rachin Ravindra, with his second ODI World Cup century, became the second player under 24 years old to achieve this, following Sachin Tendulkar. Well, the riddle is, he was named after Rahul Dravid and Sachin Tendulkar. So they put it together, put it in a mixie, and they got was Rachin. And Rachin is doing Sachin proud. In another match, Netherlands won their second ODI of the World Cup, defeating Bangladesh by 87 runs. With 2 wins, the Dutch team outperformed defending champion England. Yes, David Brooks, what do you have to say about that? Live from London. Thank you very much. You're sitting in your car and taking the questions. We appreciate that. And mind you, you also have a smiling Aussie on the show.
Well, I think Paul's entitled to be smiling from an Australian point of view. They are the form team of the tournament. Going back to what you just said, Netherlands deserve credit. They've really performed well. They deserve their place in this World Cup. They've shown that. You know, they have aspirations to join the one of the English leagues next summer, the 50 over competition. They can only enhance it. And right. England should welcome them with open arms because they can learn a lot from the Netherlands, who've performed better than them in the World Cup.
Absolutely. But tell me, England is going to take on India. Do you think they will take on India, or India is just going to rampage them?
I think England are in for a very tough day in the office. I think Jasprit Bumrah in particular will be licking his lips at bowling against this fragile England batting lineup. It's full of bits and pieces, players. We've talked before about the poor preparation for this tournament. It's really been exposed. England's shortcomings have been exposed. And I expect India, who, let's face it, haven't broken sweat yet in this tournament, to have one of their easier victories today. I see no prospect of a surprise. I think England are disintegrated as a unit, and they've all but mentally got on the plane home already. They won't be relishing this tie against India, and India will be filling their boots.
Well, that's almost an obituary of English cricket team in the
only this tournament. I'm not writing. Yes, only the World Cups.
Absolutely. We're only discussing this World Cup, and I see a beaming smile of Paul from somewhere in either Melbourne or Sydney or Adelaide. Paul, welcome to the show. You've been traveling. Tell me, what is your thought like today?
Hey, Sunil, I'm a bit tired. I watched the game in a Sydney sports pub last night. Didn't get home till about 1 a.m. And I'll tell you what, for having scored almost 400, Australia went within a whisker of losing that game. There's a couple of sensational pieces of fielding right at the end from Glenn Maxwell and Marnus Labuschagne that stopped Jimmy Neesham pulling off an incredible victory for New Zealand. So, I feel a sense of relief, because I think that had Australia lost that game, then our qualification for the semi-finals would still have been in doubt. But now I think we're going to cruise in. I'll be watching with great interest tonight to see whether England can perform some sort of miracle. Absolutely.
Some sort of miracle. But the miracle from New Zealand almost happened. Tasneem, you and I were watching the match together and you suddenly exploded saying that Neesham has to play out of his skin. What was that feeling?
Yeah, definitely. He was the last hope for them, and he had all along been playing conservative innings, I'd say, well-paced, building around everything, just keeping himself within the chase of the net run rate. And I think he had at a stage, it clicked for him as well, that he needed to go at it. He needed to just free his arms out there as well and just look for the boundaries. I think brilliant from Australia in a key for any team, any kids, any level of cricket, to let you know what putting the right people in the right places when it comes to death bowling in terms of your fielders means. Glenn Maxwell out on the boundary did a brilliant job yesterday. Even Marius Labuschagne to a certain extent, regardless of stepping out with 1-6 as well.
Absolutely. 1-6 is in the end as well. But that was little too short. This is how strange the game has become. I'd like to go on to Paul. Paul, After scoring almost 400 runs, you're still not certain about a victory. Is this the new modern day cricket that we've been talking since the beginning? Is it the birth of the new modern day cricket in ODI?
Yeah, it certainly is. And I must say, I was really disappointed that Australia didn't get 450, which is crazy. But after the initial brilliance from Travis Head and David Warner, I was really disappointed with the way that Marnus Labuschagne and especially Mitchell Marsh played. Now, I've had a long, complex relationship with the Marsh family. Many years ago when Jeff Marsh was playing, my dad and I used to bond over the fact that we were so angry that he didn't score more quickly. We wanted to get him out so that the big hitters of Simon O'Donnell and Steve Walker could get in. I finally started to really fall for Mitchell Marsh. But the innings he played last night, it was put in perspective by what Cummins and Maxwell did later on. And everyone was saying, oh, the pitch is starting to slow. They smacked it everywhere. I think that's something Australians can learn from, that, yes, it's important to consolidate, but for Marsh to have scored at a strike rate of about 67 for most of the innings was disappointing. So in a different world, Australia would have got 450 last night.
Absolutely. In a different world, it would have been a different situation. David, there's been a lot of chatter about something that concerns you a lot. It is the demise of ODI cricket. And your friend, Mark Nicholas, came out scathingly about how that it is eventually the franchise cricket is going to take on. Just throw some light and say, is this the reason why county has declined and how ODI is now on the same road? Because the custodians of the game are not watering and nurturing the plant that is supposed to, or that has given them a lot many smiles and reasons to be happy. Your views?
Yes, they're not just nurturing the game, they're trampling all over it. And with the emphasis, the overemphasis on short form 20 over and this ridiculous 100 ball competition that England uniquely have introduced with the intention of selling to the rest of the world, there are no buyers. No one should be taking on T20, but yeah, I fear for the long form game, 50 over game, test match game and a first class game. They all need to be, players need to speak up and say that it's important to them too. And I don't think cricket fans want a diet of purely one format. I think we need to, the ICC have called for a review of this 50 over World Cup format. I just hope that the administrators don't bite the hand that feeds them or kill the golden goose or whatever the expression is, that you can just gorge yourself on T20 and find that there's no other formats left. Now, bear in mind that would be the wrong way to go. And if you need any proof of that, just look at the performers in this World Cup. They're all players with the experience of long-form cricket. And those T20 specialists have been exposed as limited. It's a limited particular form of the game. It's all cricket. It's all great. We all love the T20 competition, but there's plenty of room for 50 over. And for Mark Nicholas, in his first week as president of the MCC, they just served 1-year terms, you see, to call for the end of bilateral ODIs in favour of concentrating on T20s.
Is it preposterous? You've known Mark personally. You've worked with him. What was going in his mind? Was he
I cannot think that his director of cricket on the MCC, no less than Kumar Sangakkara, will support Mark Nicholas's statement. I cannot believe that will happen, because if you scrap 50 over bilateral competitions, you're cutting off the lifeline to the associate nations.
I'll have to interrupt. David, it calls for a larger discussion with, of course, Annie and the other people walking in from the guerrilla cricket and discussing it threadbare. However, I'd like to shift our focus. We are joined by Mr. Rajkumar Sharma, the coach of Virat Kohli, and our panelist here. But before we go on to that, just a couple of quick reminders. Kohli has scored 3 centuries and 9.5 centuries against England. Virat Kohli has also scored 1,340 runs in 35 ODI matches against England at an average of 43. Well, he is certainly supposed to throw in a bit more, but more importantly, India is up on the high. Mr. Rajkumar Sharma, should India play something different, or they're good to go like this, plug, play and just walk out with a win?
Well, Sunil, I think India should play their natural games, and they have been playing very well in this tournament. They have peaked at the right moment, and I think they should continue that momentum which they have got in last 5-6 games. So I think there is nothing much to worry. They just stick to their basics, and they should play their natural game.
Well, that was Virat Kohli's coach, Mr. Rajkumar Sharma. We managed to catch him just at the airport when he's boarding a flight to watch the match. Of course, we are awaiting another bumper draw, but more importantly, England versus India. Tasneem, just take us through the stats and just delight us with the answers.
So these two teams have actually faced each other in a total of 106 ODI matches. And India on the winning end of that, 57 wins, as opposed to just 44 by England. But in the World Cup stage, they've come across each other 8 times, of which England have won 4 of those and England just 3. So it's going to be very interesting today, looking to probably level out the wins amongst World Cups. I have been rooting for the underdogs, and it's hard to say England is an underdog, they're defending world champions, and the ball's definitely not in their court, they haven't had the greatest start for them this entire World Cup. You can't even just talk about a start. I think it's their performance on a whole right now.
Absolutely. I'll just interrupt you here and get our great Aussie friend, Paul. Did we start the tournament by saying England would ever be tagged as underdog in a match which is just, we are halfway through the tournament and they're almost out? And you just share your thoughts. I mean, I'm distraught.
I must admit, I actually tipped them to beat India in the final of the World Cup. So I had thought that this game tonight would be the precursor to the final. I'm absolutely stunned by England. 2015 World Cup, they had the worst World Cup ever. They had a white ball reset, and since then, they have set the standard. They won the 2019 World Cup, having almost won the 2016 T20 World Cup. They're the defending T20 World Cup champions. They came into this with a squad, I thought, that was ready to win the tournament. To be at the point now where we're talking about the fact that not only do they have to beat India, which I think the only thing they can do is go out there and say, listen, we've got nothing to lose. Let's play with the freedom that we used to play with. And if we get beaten by 150 runs, so be it.
Paul,
but
just a sec. You mentioned 2 important points. Nothing to lose and play with freedom. Don't you think so? This is very dangerous, very ominous sign for India, because they've been on a winning spree. There's nothing called the law of averages that hasn't caught up with them. And it's a very cautious day for India. What do you think?
I think it's the sort of game that India, if they lose it, it doesn't really matter. I talked last show about being superstitious. Some Indian fans might think, well, it's unlikely we're going to go through the entire tournament undefeated. If we have to lose one game, maybe this is the game to lose.
Absolutely. If they have to lose. David, very interesting point he made, Paul, that if India has to lose one game from this tournament, this has to be it. I mean, it'll do a reset button. Would you agree that English team is in an ominous form? Your answers.
Well, I mean, it is a potential banana skin when you play against a team that's been losing every match. There's a danger they might win one, but I don't see that as a main danger at all. I think if it is a banana skin, it'll be the skin with the other way around. It won't be too slippery for India. They should win this, not in their sleep. Obviously, they won't win it with their eyes closed, and they cannot be complacent. But I don't see any other result than a huge victory for India. Just as I took issue, when we were talking about Sri Lanka, England's performance against Sri Lanka was desperate, and Sri Lanka were all over them. I don't see any difference here. A revival from England will give Harry Brook a start in this lineup to give yourself the best possible chance, because the England team's been chopping and changing, and no one knows whether they've got a place in the next game. There's no leadership being shown either by the Australian coach, Mr. Mott, who doesn't know the England setup at all, and has been relying on others, perhaps Joss Butler, who hasn't got the experience of winning captaincy at all. Bits and pieces players who've been exposed in this tournament, and I think their pain can only, I think Bumrah in particular will pile on the pain for England today.
Absolutely. What do you have to say? Daggers are already out against Joss Butler. I think the coach isn't far behind. What do you have to say of the critics and the pundits?
Yeah,
including Mike
talking
Atherton and Nasser Hussain, who've been baying for his blood. Your views?
Well, it's always difficult to follow someone like, it's like trying to be the next manager of Manchester United after Sir Alex Ferguson. There's been about 6 who've failed since then. I think following Owen Morgan is a tough job for anyone. They went with the vice-captain, Jos Buttler. He was next in line. But there's a world of difference between being the vice-captain, giving the occasional piece of advice, and actually taking the reins yourself. Owen Morgan's proved a difficult act to follow. And yeah, I think Jos Buttler's tenure as the captain of the white ball format will be coming to an end at the end of this tournament.
Well, the tenure of the captain is there, but the daggers are absolutely out for the coach. Now let's get an Aussie. Paul, do you want to defend your coach by giving the credentials yet again to the people who've Yes, go on, Paul.
Yeah, I think Matthew Mott has fantastic credentials. It's undeniable that so far this tournament has been an unmitigated disaster for England. Let's see how it pans out. There's still mathematically possible that they could achieve something out of it. But as I said, the last time I was on the show, although I must admit I tipped England to beat Sri Lanka emphatically. So I hope you're going to delete that part of the footage, Sunil. I'm a bit embarrassed about that. But I think that Matthew Mott turned the Australian women's cricket team into a juggernaut, and he won the World Cup with England in the T20 format. So his credentials have been impeccable, but you've got to say that there is plenty of opportunity to criticise the way that England have performed and their tactics, including bowling first in massive heat the other day as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think if they go out in straight sets as is expected, he may well find that he's on the outer as well.
Absolutely. He's certainly facing the heat from the pundits. Well, what does your punditry say today? Who's going to win and by what margin? Quick. And I'll go on to all my 2 other panelists.
Look, I'm going to go out on a limb again. Just to be controversial, I'm going to say England will win by 10 runs.
England win by 10 runs. There's an Aussie rooting for an England. That's the only place.
Not rooting, just predicting, not rooting.
All right. In this match, I correct myself. Let's move on to David Brooks. David, you've already said it, but we'd like to just analyze if you've managed to change your mind after hearing your nemesis from Australia.
There's nothing that I heard nothing to change from it. If India bat first, they'll win by over 150 runs. If they bat second, they'll win by 8 or 9 wickets. Tasmin Granger, the cheer lady for the underdogs, the ones who will always support the team batting second. And what's your view, Tasmin?
Yeah, definitely. I think England got their hands full today. But like we said, they're a team sitting in a position that have nothing to lose at this stage. Key notable things for you to take note of. Shiraz Iyer is 69 runs away from scoring 2,000 ODI runs. He will become tied for the second fastest player to reach that target.
Right.
Jos Buttler just might shock us today and come to the party. He needs 82 runs to reach 5,000 ODI runs today. So I'm going to be the cheerleader as usual and say I'm just rooting for England out here. There's not much I can do, but I know they have a tough job ahead of them. This one is definitely in India's court.
Well, contrary to the fans' belief, we've got a house divided by 2:1, and Tasmin Granger and the Aussie podcaster and a well-known cricket journalist, Paul Dennett, is rooting for England, whereas an Englishman is supporting India to win by 150 runs or 9 wickets. Well, that's all we had time for. I think this is one crazy Sunday morning that we are having a good laugh and enjoying the statistics in a light-hearted manner, but at the same time, we're looking at the seriousness of where the teams have reached, how they're progressing, and how the final unfolds.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.